Hey everybody, Corey here. Today we're going to be talking about a book that I've started reading in the last couple of days, How I Raised Myself from Failure to Success in Selling by Frank Bettger. And I was recommended to read this book, and it says on the front cover of my copy here, the most helpful, inspiring book on salesmanship that I've ever read. And that comment was by Dale Carnegie. So I've been reading through the first chapter, and he's talking about enthusiasm. And at the end of the chapter, it says there's a comment by Dale Carnegie, and he says, I urge you to reread many times this chapter by Frank Bettger and to make a high and holy resolve that you will double the amount of enthusiasm that you have been putting in to your work and into your life. If you carry out that resolve, you will probably double your income and double your happiness. So I thought it would be worthwhile in sharing the parts of the chapter that I've highlighted. So I've started rereading this chapter. I've made a commitment to reread it every day for 30 months and start to internalize this idea that he's talked about on enthusiasm. So chapter 1, he says, how one idea multiplied my income and happiness. And he started out as a professional baseball player, and he was fired from his job because his boss said that well, the quote is, he said, it'll never work. The thing is that's holding you down. Whatever you do after you leave here, for heaven's sakes, wake yourself up and put some life and enthusiasm into your work. He fired him because he said that he wasn't enthusiastic enough. And he made a resolve that he said, I made up my mind to establish a reputation as being the most enthusiastic ball player that they'd ever seen in his new team. And he said that as a result of this, 3 things happened. And the first one was that his enthusiasm almost entirely overcame his fear. He said, in fact, my nervousness began to work for me, and I played far better than I ever thought I was capable of playing. If you're nervous, be thankful. Don't hold it back. Turn it on. Let your nerves work for you. He said the second thing that happened, like magic for him, was that his enthusiasm affected the other players on the team, and they too became enthusiastic. And thirdly, he said, instead of dropping with the heat, I felt better during the game and after it was over than I'd ever felt before. Within 10 days, enthusiasm took me from $25 a month to $185 a month. It increased my income by 700%. Let me repeat, nothing but the determination to act enthusiastic increased my income 700% in 10 days. He said, I got this stupendous increase in salary, not because I could throw a ball better or catch or hit better, not because of any more ability as a ball player. I didn't know any more about baseball than I did before. And he says 2 years later, 2 years from that time, I'd been hoping to get $25 a month in that little Chester outfit, which is the small team that he got demoted to. He said, I was playing third base for the St. Louis Cardinals and had multiplied my income by 30 times. What did it? Enthusiasm alone did it. Nothing but enthusiasm. So he finished his baseball career with an injury, and he ended up working in insurance. And he said that he was a dismal failure at selling life insurance. He said, finally, I concluded I was never cut out to be a salesman and began answering ads for a job as a shipping clerk. I realized, however, that no matter what work I tried to do, I had to overcome a strange fear complex that possessed me. So I joined one of Dale Carnegie's courses on public speaking. And he says, one night, Mr. Carnegie stopped me in the middle of a talk. Mr. Bettger, he said, just a moment. Are you actually interested in what you're saying? Yes, of course I am, I replied. Well then, said Mr. Carnegie, why don't you talk with a little enthusiasm? How do you expect your audience to be interested if you don't put some life and animation into what you say? And then he says, before I went to bed that night, I sat for an hour thinking. My thoughts went back to my baseball days at Johnstown and New Haven. For the first time, I realized that the very fault which had threatened to wreck my career in baseball was now threatening to wreck my career as a salesman. The decision that I made that night was the turning point of my life. That decision was to stay in the insurance business and put the same enthusiasm into selling that I had put into playing baseball when I joined the New Haven team. And he says, from that day on, I began to sell. The magic of enthusiasm began to work for me in business, just as it had in baseball. During my 32 years of selling, I have seen enthusiasm double and treble the income of dozens of salesmen, and I've seen the lack of it cause hundreds of salesmen to fail. I firmly believe enthusiasm is by far the biggest single factor in successful selling. For example, I know a man who is an authority on insurance. He could even write a book on it, yet he can't make a decent living selling it. Why? Largely because of his lack of enthusiasm. I know another salesman who didn't know 1/10 as much as about insurance, and yet he made a fortune selling it, and he retired in 20 years. His name is Stanley Gettis. He now lives in Miami Beach, Florida. The reason for his outstanding success was not knowledge, it was enthusiasm. Can you acquire enthusiasm, or must you be born with it? Certainly you can acquire it. Stanley Gettis acquired it. He became a human dynamo. How? Just by forcing himself each day to act enthusiastic. As a part of his plan, Stanley Gettis repeated a poem almost every morning for 20 years. He found that repeating it helped him generate enthusiasm for the day. I found this poem so inspiring that I had it printed on cards and gave away hundreds of them. It was written by Herbert Kaufman, and it has a good title. It's called Victory. And he says, "You're the man who used to boast that you'd achieve the utmost someday. You merely wish to show, to demonstrate how much you know and prove the distance you can go. Another year we've just passed through. What new ideas came to you? How many big things did you do? Time left 12 fresh months in your care. How many of them did you share with opportunity and dare? Again, where you so often missed. We do not find you on the list of makers good. Explain the fact. Ah, no, 'twas not the chance you lacked. As usual, you failed to act." And he says, why don't you memorize the poem and repeat it daily? It may do for you what it did for Stanley. So he goes on to talk. Once I read a statement by Walter P. Chrysler, and I was so impressed by it, I carried it in my pocket for a week. He said, Walter Chrysler, when asked to give the secret of success, listed the various qualities such as ability, capacity, energy, but added that the real secret was enthusiasm. Yes, more than enthusiasm, said Chrysler, I would say excitement. I like to see men get excited. When they get excited, they get customers excited and we get business. Enthusiasm is by far the highest paid quality on earth, probably because it's one of the rarest, yet it's one of the most contagious. If you're enthusiastic, your listener is very likely to become enthusiastic, even though you may present your ideas poorly. Without enthusiasm, your sales talk is about as dead as last year's turkey. Enthusiasm isn't merely an outward expression. Once you begin to acquire it, enthusiasm works constantly within you. You may be sitting quietly in your home, an idea occurs to you. That idea begins to develop. Finally, you become consumed with enthusiasm and nothing can stop you. It will help you overcome fear, become more successful in business. It will make you more money, enjoy a healthier, richer, and happier life. When can you begin? Right now. Just say to yourself, this is one thing I can do. How can you begin? There's just one rule. Put this rule into action for 30 days and be prepared to see the astonishing results. It may revolutionize your entire life. And he says, to become enthusiastic, act enthusiastic. Force yourself to act enthusiastic and you'll become enthusiastic. Stand up on your hind legs each morning and repeat with powerful gestures all the enthusiasm you can generate. Force yourself to act enthusiastic and you'll become enthusiastic. So that's the key points of the chapter that I'd highlighted to read back to myself over the next 30 days. I hope you found it useful. And Frank Bettger here, he clearly believes that enthusiasm is the key quality in order to double, triple, or quadruple your success, happiness, income, anything in life. So I'm certainly going to give it a go, and I hope you do too. If you like this, please subscribe to my channel, and I look forward to the next video with you.